Sennheiser is a name that is reinforced by a professional reputation for not only quality, but consistency. And as one of their crown jewels, the 416, is turning 50, let's take a look at not only how this company emerged as a leader in the audio industry, but also how this microphone became the go-to for not only media production, but for voiceover as well. But to get there, we need to start from the beginning. With that in mind, would you believe me if I told you that this all began in a quaint farmhouse in Hanover?
I'm Woody Boyd from Hanover, Indiana. That's the placemat capital of the world.
No, not that Hanover. This Hanover is in Germany. Dr. Fritz Sennheiser started a company called Laboratorium Venabostel in 1945, which just rolls off the tongue, doesn't it? Now, the main purpose of this company was making measuring equipment to sell to Siemens. One thing leads to another, and LabW finds itself making a microphone for them called the D1. Then the DM2, the DM3, and the DM4 come shortly after. And then the big splash comes with the MD21 in 1953. This microphone takes over the broadcast industry and becomes the standard for radio and television recording. And the successes just kept rolling as they released the MD82. That's the first ever commercially produced shotgun mic, followed by the Microport, a wireless microphone system. And by 1958, the company finally rebranded as Sennheiser. And 2 years later, we're introduced to a legend, the MD421. This was the successor to the MD21 and was quickly picked up for all kinds of broadcasting and music. It was an instant hit, and with that, Sennheiser went on a bit of a run of innovations and legends. But as Sennheiser continued releasing bangers like headphones, microphones, and just cornering all sides of the market, the world began moving away from tubes. And because of that, Sennheiser set out to solve a very specific problem. And that problem all came down to resistance. You see, there was a huge difference between the resistance of a condenser capsule and them new fandangled transistors that everyone was using. And the initial idea was for a fix utilizing RF, or radio frequencies. Now, I'm going to skip over the science of this part so you don't fall asleep, but if you do want these RF principles expanded on, let me know down below. I think it's fascinating, but it's kind of the next level of nerd, so it's up to you. Anyways, once FET or field effect transistors came out, RF was mostly dropped by most companies, but not Sennheiser. They continued forward with it and found that there were some specific benefits to the technology. And with that in mind, the MKH lineup was envisioned, and the first RF condenser mic called the MKH404 rolled off the line in 1962. But around this time, technology was also moving really fast. You see, the type of power for condenser microphones around that time was called AB powering, sometimes called T powering. However, phantom power was just on the horizon and was quickly taking over. Not only was phantom power just more convenient, its main benefit was that it didn't harm dynamic mics and didn't need to be switched off while using a board that didn't have channel-specific power. But at the time, in the late 60s and early 70s, the MKH lineup was well underway, and the MKH416T was the popular mic. Though with that T referring to its power supply, its time was kind of limited. But there was also another problem with those microphones. Apparently, they were just too long. You see, the length of a shotgun microphone is what gives it the ability to be super directional and super picky with its off axis. The longer the tube, the pickier it gets. Which brings us to the legend of the hacksaw. You see, the legend says that a young technical manager for Sennheiser named Dr. Grice was out trying to sell the 415T to several media outlets when he started getting complaints. Apparently, it was too directional. Mic handlers had to follow the talent around and had to move the mic for even the slightest move, which is annoying, right? So Dr. Grice asked for a handsaw and then basically just asked them, well, how much directionality would you like? He then hacked off a section of the microphone, and apparently that shortened microphone was perfect for what they needed, which led Sennheiser to their short shotgun lineup. And once the length was agreed upon, Sennheiser started seeing the writing on the wall for all the T-powered mics, and needed to start a redesign phase for their shotgun lineup anyways. So, Sennheiser brought a young engineer on named Manfred Hibbing. It was his job to create the phantom-powered successor to the 415T. Luckily for Sennheiser, Hibbing was very, very good at his job, and shortly after in the 70s, the MKH416 was released. And to say it was an instant success and an industry standard would kind of be selling it short. It became so iconic in Hollywood that it just became known as the Sennheiser. It was the only go-to, and as actors read their makeup lines in voiceover studios using the same mic for continuity, producers started to notice something. This microphone was the perfect option for voiceover. It just sounded fantastic on everyone. It required less processing, so producers took note, and then voiceover artists started to take note. And then the whole industry just seemed to all silently agree on the MKH416 as being one of the best microphones for voiceover. The deep voices of the 70s and 80s bought in immediately. And it didn't take long for the whole spectrum of voices to catch up. This is when this microphone, the MKH416, gained true legendary status. By the way, if you've ever been curious, MKH stands for microphone condensator, which is just German for condenser, and H for high frequency. Fun fact though, I didn't know that before I researched this video. And I think the rest, as they say, is, well, it's history. Sennheiser has not stood still and rested on their laurels. They continue to stretch the boundaries of microphones and their role in media, just releasing the new MKH8018. A very cool microphone and well worth taking a look at if you've got the coin to spend on it. It's a shotgun mic that allows you to do mid-side, which is it's pretty cool. Let's get back to this bad boy. That original MKH416 was released in 1975, meaning that this year, 2025, this thing turns 50. It's a pretty remarkable feat when you consider it joins a select few microphones to have similar status. Not only for the longevity, but also that status that comes along with the title of industry standard. And while other industry standards cut their own path out of immortality, they all seem to have one big common feature, and that is utility. The ability to put them in any situation and not just perform, but to also shine. Another feature that seems to follow these legends is reliability. The consistency of excellence is important when you're an industry standard, and that consistency also reflects in the price of these legends. And Sennheiser isn't alone in this. These legendary mics rarely ever go on sale once they've reached that god-tier status. And it's for good reason, but sometimes, like important occasions, like birthdays, you can find discounts. And that's what Sennheiser is doing right now. 15% off is a very rare discount that you will ever find with this mic. And yes, this is a very easy recommendation. And hell no, Sennheiser isn't putting me up to this. And the links below are not affiliate links. I'm not getting a penny for this video. No one's asked me to do this video. This is just a tip of the hat to one of the best sounding microphones of all time, in my humble opinion. Happy birthday, MKH416. Cheers, guys, and thanks for watching.